afternoon. My name is Kim Birks, and my topic today is the playground. I grew up in Montreal, and as a child, outdoor playtime meant grass beneath my feet. So when I moved to New York, I couldn't help but notice, in walking around, that playground after playground in this city seems to blatantly ignore the ground that it's on. And I became curious. In an urban environment such as this, where very few children have a yard to play in, how are we designing for outdoor play? In looking at all the playgrounds around the city, it seems strange to me that this concept of the ground on which we play has come to be just a collection of equipment ordered from a catalog and plunked within the environment in a sea of asphalt or rubber matting. Take a look at a contrast between a playground in my hometown and one here. This paradigm is strange, and I was curious, how do these Rube Goldberg-like contraptions come to be the standard of urban child's play? The playground developed at the turn of the century, when improvements in child labor laws afforded the city's children ample time to play and nowhere to do it but the street. Beyond providing a space dedicated to children's play, early reformers believed that playgrounds served as, quote, a healthful influence on children's morals and conduct. One can imagine what these early playgrounds were like for children who had, before that, scrounged for scraps of land. In October of 1903, picture it, 20,000 children turned out in the rain to witness the unveiling of America's first municipally sponsored urban playground in the Lower East Side's Seward Park. The park, with its 3 S's, the swing, the seesaw, and the slide, ushered in a new era of civic playgrounds and served as the design model for decades. These early playgrounds were, by and large, pretty harsh spaces, filled with metal equipment and hard surfaces. They were easy to maintain, but hard on elbows and knees. From there, it is not a far leap to our playgrounds of today. The colors are brighter, and thanks to a phone book thick set of safety standards, the surfaces are softer. Adhering to all these safety standards means that it is often much simpler to order your playground from a catalog than to have it designed. And as a result, every playground looks pretty much the same. Not only are modern playgrounds predictable, they are also prescriptive. They tell you how to play, with very little room for imagination and creativity. While this may satisfy the physical stimulation quotient, mentally, it's pretty boring. Though playgrounds have long been formulaic, they were at one time celebrated public spaces. Elaborate opening ceremonies were planned and broadcast on the radio. Recreation specialists and active programming like kite days, storytelling, and athletic competitions gave these spaces a vibrancy now lost. Indeed, American culture in the 21st century has constricted children's play as never before. Increased competition, organized activities, parental fears, technology, and educational shifts have combined to affect what David Elkin, professor of child development at Tufts University, describes as the reinvention of childhood. There's simply no time these days for the chaotic, unstructured fun of the playground. Meanwhile, central to creativity and innovation, play is vital to preparing a society capable of dreaming up and meeting the challenges of the world of tomorrow. In the words of innovation consultant Roger von Eck, necessity may be the mother of invention, but play is certainly the father. Child development expert Joseph C. Pierce goes on to say that play is the only way that the highest intelligence of humankind can unfold. Through play, we imagine different realities, test new possibilities. However, if all of our play spaces are predictable and the same, we lose this vital aspect of play. What could our playgrounds look like if we took a newly imaginative approach to their design? Examples from around the globe, such as this one in Germany, reveal that playgrounds need not come from a catalog, that they have the potential to be fully conceived environments. places capable of tickling the playful spirit in all of us. In Tokyo's Showa-Kinen Park, a collaboration between artist and architect produced a fog forest in which every 15 minutes, a landscape of truncated pyramids is shrouded in fog produced by a 32-foot steel structure. Environments like this show us how open-ended the invitation to play can be. There is no reason why New York cannot lead the country in a new approach to playgrounds. We have done it before. In the 1960s, architects M. Paul Friedberg and Richard Datner created carefully conceived spaces in which play features were woven into a unified landscape. Friedberg led the way in 1965 with the Lower East Side's Reese Plaza, an intergenerational gathering space in the center of a housing complex. 2 years later, Richard Datner unveiled his first of 5 playgrounds in Central Park. For a brief period, these architects made New York the epicenter of innovative playgrounds in the country. Datner's 2006 renovation of Heckscher Playground, though modified to conform to modern safety specifications, still gives a sense of this original, integrated approach. Though an increasingly litigious society has dampened much of our creative impulse, happily, recent years have seen a handful of playgrounds in the city challenge the norm. In 2004, landscape architect Michael Van Valkenburg gave Battery Park City what the Boston Globe declared to be, quote, a manifesto in the possibilities of a playground. Nestled into a 2-acre plot of land amidst 4 condominiums, Teardrop Park integrates playful elements into a sophisticated landscape meant to invoke the Catskills. The result is what the architects describe as a park that also makes kids happy rather than a kid's park. I imagine that if I were a kid growing up in New York City, this seemingly secret garden replete with a 14-foot slide would be thrilling. From an adult's perspective, the beauty of the park would also make me likely to stay longer, with or without a child. Following on the heels of Teardrop Park, last summer, Van Valkenburg unveiled Brooklyn Bridge Park's Pier 6. Here, we see that when sensitively incorporated, catalog equipment can indeed create a playground that is more than the sum of its parts. But recently, the city's king of the sandbox is found in the unlikely figure of David Rockwell. Best known as the design mind behind some of the city's hottest hangouts, Rockwell has brought his PR power to Imagination Playground. Replete with website, merchandise, and a hefty press kit, Rockwell's Playground opened its gates to throngs of trendy children last summer. In Rockwell's design, 450 large foam blocks, a kind of Tinker toy on steroids, enable the children to be architects of their own experience. While bigwig architects are obviously not a realistic solution on the broader scale, perhaps they can serve as a starting point, emboldening us to ask more of our playgrounds. A kindergarten in the Netherlands did just that. Inspired by the quirky spirit of Jacques Tati's film Mon Oncle, 2 industrial designers transformed the school's yard with one continuous line. Creativity does not have to be cost prohibitive. Opportunity surrounds us. As part of Plan YC, Mayor Bloomberg's initiative to create a greener, more livable city by 2030, the government launched the Schoolyards to Playgrounds program in 2007. Over the next 2 years, 258 schoolyards across New York will be transformed into vibrant playgrounds that serve both their school and community. Students, faculty, and community members are invited to take part in the design process. As New Yorkers, we each have the chance to effect meaningful change, to transform space into place. Just imagine what we could create if we foster the collaboration of urban planners, artists, and architects. The power to recreate these spaces, to put New York's playgrounds on new ground, lies in our hands. Thank you.
So I have to ask, what does a catalog for playgrounds look like?
Well, I think if you've walked around the city, you kind of know what it looks like. Basically, just large units, single units, that are pretty much one and the same from one catalog to another. There is some variation, and if you look at Union Square, they've used, I think, some different catalog equipment from Germany. But by and large, in North America, a lot of the equipment, I think forced by safety standards largely, looks pretty similar.
And how, I mean, you sort of touched on this, but how do playgrounds reflect our changing ideas of childhood?
You know, well, I guess playgrounds have long been pretty harsh spaces. But I think in recent years, we really haven't focused on them that much. There's a host of issues going on with trends in childhood right now in terms of parents wanting to sort of pack their children's resumes, so they put them into organized activities. Unstructured play isn't viewed as something that's very important. And yet, just this past July, Newsweek published a cover article about how the creativity, it was entitled The Creativity Crisis. It said that creativity in the US is falling for the first time in 50 years. So unstructured play, which has been more and more science research shows that it's very important in terms of fostering creativity, I think deserves more attention than it's being given.
And so what does the future hold? I mean, clearly it's a public space. In some ways it's also potentially in an urban environment a dangerous place, but also, as you just said, it's a place for exploration, play, and possibly growth. What's coming down the pike?
You know, I'm hopeful. I think, especially with playgrounds being in the news in New York over the last year with David Rockwell, as I showed, Frank Gehry is scheduled to do a playground in Battery Park. So I think, you know, these come with big budgets, and not all communities are going to be able to afford a space like this. But if they raise awareness about the fact that there are different options than purely what comes out of catalog, my hope is that the playground will become a valued urban space that can be a place that all generations hang out on.
And are you going to integrate this into your life moving forward, this research?
With luck. I have applied to do an exhibit at the Canadian Centre for Architecture, which we shall see. And then this coming weekend, as part of the New City Festival of Ideas, I'm going to be speaking at Pichakucha on Saturday night about dimensions of the new city. It's 50 presenters, and hopefully I'll be in an environment to meet some people who would be open to talking about these issues.
That sounds great. I guess one final question, again, you touched on this, but is there a move for, I mean, a lot of these playgrounds are in kind of wealthy and amazingly kind of lucrative parts of the city. Is this kind of moving to other parts of Manhattan and other rural areas, for instance?
You know, yes, it's particularly with David Rockwell. He has spawned what he calls Playground in a Box, which you can purchase the foam blocks to add to your playground wherever you are in the city at a cost that is much more reasonable than designing a full-blown new playground. That said, of course, there is some criticism that the places that get the fancy playgrounds are not the places that need them most. So there's work to be done.
Great, we look forward to your work. And everyone, thank you, Kim. We have another coffee break. So enjoy, and we'll reconvene shortly. Thanks.